Welcome to Coach My Wellness, a weekly show dedicated to bringing you information about healthy habits and behaviors just for the health of it. Here's your hosts, Joanne and Tammy.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coach My Wellness, just for the health of it. I'm Joanne Orshan.
And I'm Tammy St. Clair.
And today we're going to be talking about your most precious asset. What is that, right? I would think that it's got to be your health and investing in it for the long term. So your health is most likely a priority for you. And how many times, Tammy, have we heard, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
So many times, we hear people say that. And unfortunately, people don't take action fast enough, and therefore they run into a lot of trouble. So health really is beneficial for being a priority in your life, because if you don't have your health, it will absolutely impact your work, your responsibilities, your relationships, and your ability to be there for your children.
Yeah, and it's not selfish to think about your health. Everyone thinks, oh, I'll put off doing the exercise or learning how to do yoga or play tennis or just going out for a walk for myself because, I've got all of these other things that I have to do and I have to get done. But without prioritizing your health, at some point, you're trading away the longevity for the immediate.
Right. So what does it mean to prioritize your health? If you think about that, those who are really able to make their health the main focus of their lives do so by prioritizing themselves over others. And that doesn't mean being selfish or not caring about anyone else. What it does mean is unapologetically making self-care an important part of your life, which certainly would be well worth your time and effort.
Yeah. And, when a person leads a healthy lifestyle, the body remains healthy, the mind is active and fresh. Living a healthy life extends longevity and regenerates the body and mind. And good health is the core of importance to human happiness. I mean, think about the people that end up losing their health because they have an unexpected heart attack or they have an unexpected stroke, and they were just healthy last week when I saw them, and now they're, struggling to put life back together.
Right, because being healthy really should be a part of your overall lifestyle. And living a healthy lifestyle can help to prevent chronic diseases for long-term illnesses. And feeling good about yourself and taking care of your health are so important for your self-esteem and your self-image, as well as maintaining a healthy lifestyle by doing what is really right for the body. So what are some of the problems that people who have a lot of extra weight on their bodies experience?
Well, like I mentioned, people who are obese are more likely to develop any number of health issues, heart disease, strokes, diabetes. You don't have to be overweight or have obesity to experience those chronic health conditions, but it certainly puts you at a higher risk. And obesity makes it more likely to have high blood pressure and abnormal cholesterol levels, which are also risk factors for heart disease and type 2 diabetes. It just doesn't make life easier. It ends up very much limiting you.
And also the costs associated with excess weight on your body, right? No less real are the social and emotional effects of obesity, including discrimination, lower wages, lower quality of life, and also a susceptibility to depression. So when you're overweight, a lot of things don't feel so good in your body. And some of the common symptoms of obesity in adults really can include excessive body fat, particularly around the waist, which is that visceral fat, which is so dangerous for all of us, since that really does kind of crush the organs inside. Mm-hmm. There's shortness of breath. Perhaps you're someone who sweats more than usual, right? We don't relate that to weight, but yeah, snoring, that's a big one, right? Mm-hmm. Difficulty with sleeping. I know a lot of overweight clients of mine have a lot of skin issues from moisture that accumulates in the folds of the skin, infections that take forever to go away. But what I hear probably the most from my clients is that it's the inability to perform simple physical tasks that you could easily perform prior to weight gain. I had a client tell me that all he wanted to do was to be able to sit on the floor and play with his grandchildren, but he couldn't get up from sitting on the floor.
Before I lost my 100 pounds, when I was at my maximum weight, all of these things that you're talking about and mentioning are things that I definitely experience on a regular basis, both the socio-emotional issues as well as, man, I was always the hottest person in the room. I was sweating constantly. And so it was always funny to me when I'd see these skinny girls be like, oh, it's so cold in here. And I'm like, cold? What are you talking about? It's hot. Can't you see how much I'm sweating? And I knew, so if I were sitting in church or I was in the grocery store and I was cold, I was like, oh, these skinny girls must be like popsicles in here. And so I had a couple of my friends in church who were skinny girls, and one of them would be wearing gloves. And I'd be like, why are you wearing gloves? Oh, I'm cold. I'm like, you need to gain a little weight. And she's like, no, I'm okay. She really needed to gain a little weight. But, now that I've lost 100 pounds, I can't believe how different it is to not be sweating all the time, to actually be cold. Now I'm the one that's also it was 70 degrees yesterday and it was beautiful outside. And I went out with my zip sweater jacket and my hands in my pockets. So excess weight really does have an issue. And one of the other things before was fatigue. Fatigue is one of those things that, man, when you're carrying around extra weight, whether it's 20, 30, 40 pounds or 100, it's tiring. It's like wearing a weight belt and having pain in my hips and back and knees and joints. It's a lot.
And then getting so much deeper is really all of the negative self-talk, negative self-esteem, the depression piece, the shame, the embarrassment, and social isolation.
Right.
I know that when I had put on an excessive amount of weight, and it's funny, I always talk about that it's so important to take photographs of yourself as you go through the process. And
it really is.
Right? And one of the most stressful things was to take photographs at my maximum weight at the time. And I had a health coach who worked with me, and she lost my first set of photographs that I took.
Oh.
And it wasn't until about a year later, when I had lost 65 pounds, that I would have killed for those photographs, because I didn't have any of me at that weight because I was too embarrassed. So I was the one who wanted to be behind the camera, not in front of the camera. I'm sure that we hear that a lot. And it takes so much time for us to notice from ourselves the changes in our body and in how we are really releasing weight and the physicality of that. However, pictures are the most telling of all.
They really are.
Right. So when I look at some of my old photographs, I just want to, who is that person walking by, in that mirror? That certainly isn't me. So yeah, there was a lot of social isolation, thinking about, well, I don't want to see a lot of people because when I walk out of the room, they're all going to talk about how much weight I've put on since they've seen me last. It's mortifying, right?
And I think something that we'll talk about in a few minutes is that's your story. That's the story in your head. But there's all of these things that go along with it. I remember when I lost my weight, You were talking about pictures and how long it takes. And as I work with clients, that's one thing that I really encourage them and sort of hold them accountable to is I know they hate it, but I have them send me a picture of the front and side and back every month as we go along. And they don't ever have to see that picture again. But I'm holding on to those pictures because I know that how important that is. And what I do is I stitch them together over the time that we're working together so that when they hit a place where your weight stalls out and your body is more compacting than it is losing weight because our body holds onto fluids in order to process glycogen and all this stuff to do its shape shifting, we think, oh, that's it. I've stalled. I'm not losing weight anymore. And, I'll work with them and say, okay, but look, can you see how much weight you've lost? And inevitably, initially, they're like, no. For me, I had to lose about 55 or 60 pounds before anyone said to me, hey, did you change your hair? And I'm like, no, I lost 55 pounds. And it's just how other people see and then how we don't see the shifts in the mirror. And then going along with all the social isolation and self-esteem and stuff is also the effects that weight has on our socioeconomic status, not getting the promotions at work, having lower wages. I worked at a Fortune 5 company, and for about 4 years, I had been advocating with my boss to say, hey, I want to move over to this other group that I wanted to try out because it was more of a teaching kind of, it was still admin, it was still a secretarial position, but it was in the teaching group. And because that's where my heart and soul is in supporting people and teaching. And I kept getting pushed away. Yeah. Go away. When I lost that first 55 pounds and people were like, oh, did you change your hair? All of a sudden it was like, oh, I spoke to so-and-so for you. If you'd like to go have a chat with them. So there are reasons that weight doesn't just affect our physical self.
Right, which is why we really need to make health a top priority.
Mm-hmm.
Look, people have different reasons for wanting to release weight. Some people just want to look better. Some people really want to make a difference in their health.
Their physical health.
Right, and some people want both.
Right, they need the mental health and the physical health.
Exactly, and that's why it is such a priority to put yourself first, because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anybody else?
Right.
Specifically as women, so many women that I work with, they all talk about how they are the organizers in their home. They're the ones that really are taking care of the orchestration of what happens in their home environment. They are responsible for more of the children's daily activities, perhaps. It's just who we are as women. And we are always taking care of everyone else. But again, when it comes to us, sometimes we put that on the back burner. So it's how do we get off of that back burner and make ourselves a priority?
Right. And I think so much of our mental health is tied in with our physical health. If we have lost ourselves and not appreciated the asset of who we are, the asset of our health, then we don't realize our world begins to shrink, and we don't realize it at the beginning.
Well, that's why it's so important to take your health seriously and taking the necessary actions to prevent future health problems that can treat many issues that you might already be experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And you will probably feel that the healthier you are, that the better you will feel. Because when you're feeling better, you feel stronger, you feel more energized, you feel more enthusiastic. And
right.
open to the world. And good health really does give you the energy and vitality that you need, not only to get through your day, but also to enjoy your day. So when you're feeling strong and capable, you're confident in your ability to tackle any task. So therefore, thriving at work, enjoying fulfilling and fun personal relationships, and perhaps even being eager to explore some new hobbies and activities.
Well, when I was at my highest at 290 pounds, there was no way, as much as I loved bike riding, as much as I loved all these things, that I could do it because there was just too much pain in my body. But once I lost the 100 pounds, 110, it was amazing. I took up bike riding. And so when I would say to the doctors, oh yeah, I rode 50 miles this weekend, they were like, what? You did what? And I'm like, yeah, because I can. It was amazing that you find new hobbies and activities to enjoy, and it expands your social circle. So it allows you to keep making yourself first and maintaining that preciousness about your health.
Well, that's all about the transformation piece. So it's taking that information and then transforming. And I know you had a really great story about a client of yours with walking up steps, where it was one step at a time, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah. So
share that with our listeners.
Sure. I have a client who was super morbidly obese, which for people who don't know what that means, is she was in the 400 plus pound range. And so when the doctors would say, oh, you need to start walking, you need to start doing exercise, she would look at them like, I'm doing as much as I can, which goes back to what we mentioned earlier, how weight affects our energy, because you're doing weight bearing exercise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when you're carrying around weight like that. So as a coach, what we started out with was baby steps. So it was, let's set the goal. How far do you think you can walk? And she was like, I don't know, man. I'm like, can you get to your mailbox? Well, not right now. I said, okay, so let's make a goal that let's see how long it takes you to get to your mailbox. And so every day she would go out and get as far down her driveway, because she had a very long driveway, towards her mailbox as she could. And then she would come back. And the next day she would do a couple more steps. Took her about a week and a half to be able to get all the way down to the end of the driveway and pick up the mail and walk back. But she was so excited, which then just builds on the momentum. Like when I first started bike riding, I didn't do 50 miles in a day. I was like, girl, 12 miles, 12 miles. Who rides 12 miles? What? That's my first ride. 12 miles? Like, are you kidding me? I can't do that. And there were a couple of my friends that were there that were involved in this biking group. And they were like, that's okay. We'll take our time. We'll ride with you. We're along for the ride. And we stopped along the way. And at the end of that very first ride, I was like, oh my God, I just biked 12 miles? How is that possible? I can't do that. And it's those things that also build the momentum to then be able to appreciate, oh, wow, if I did that, well, then that means, oh, eating dessert tonight? No, I really enjoyed getting on the bike and going for that bike ride. So I'm not going to eat that whatever. And I'm going to make sure that I get a good night's sleep so my body can recover. It sort of all builds on each other.
Right. So you already know that you would benefit from eating well and getting frequent exercise in order to keep your body and your mind in great shape. So let's talk about the improvement of mental function and clarity as we start to increase our body's state to one of health. So a healthy mind is truly as important as a healthy body. And the foods that we eat and the habits that we have will definitely impact your mental health just as they do your body. And a lot of people don't make that connection between the two. So nourishing your mind and practicing self-care is a great combination that will help you to feel more in balance within your body. Since when your mind is healthy, then you can easily come up with solutions to problems and rationally deal with intense situations. Having greater clarity and mental sharpness instead of fighting off that brain fog and struggling to stay engaged in work is very powerful, as well as another way to help you to fight stress.
Right. And we don't always associate what we eat with how it's affecting our brain. So one of the things in eating better is having that broad spectrum of the rainbow of fruits and vegetables and limiting our sugar intake, because sugar, whether it comes from sweets or a big bowl of pasta, it contributes to the brain fog. And we all think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. But if we're not getting a balanced intake of healthy foods, we're not getting all of the amino acids and building blocks of what our body needs in order to function well. And you mentioned stress. Well, part of that is in eating a broad spectrum and a broad variety of real food, not food-like substances, that I always talk to my clients about, but eating an apple, not apple leather. Everybody goes, oh, well, I got some of those apple leathers. It's just apple that's like dried, and that's all that's in there. It's like, okay, but part of eating the apple is also the water that's in it, the fiber that's in it, and all the micronutrients that live in there that are not in your little apple leather. That's going to take you 2 minutes to kind of gobble up, where the apple is going to take you 10 minutes maybe to eat.
And it's even more than that, Tammy, because as we know that when fruit is very ripe, what happens is the composition of it changes and it becomes much more laden with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And sugar, we're going to do a whole talk on that coming down the pike, but sugar is so much responsible for mood fluctuations and mood changes, just as I'm sure you've heard so many stories about parents that have children, and when kids eat a whole bunch of sugar, they're bouncing off the walls, right?
Right.
So, sugar really does affect so many other things in our bodies. And fighting stress is truly so important as an aspect for focusing on your health so that you stay more in tune with yourself. And a strong body is capable truly of dealing with all of the types of stressors, both mental and physical. But you'll find it easier to fight off some illnesses that you might have if you are not under so much emotional stress. And
right.
It's also likely that you'll most likely notice an improvement in how you interact with others. So whether it's criticism or disagreements, they might not affect you so deeply because you'll be able to see the situation for what it is and deal with it as needed and then move on to let it go. And all of that is all this feel-good serotonin being released in your body to boost your mood and to have you feel good so that you're in a better state of mind. And you know that when you feel empowered and confident in a better state of mind, then we have a clearer direction for what it is that we want to accomplish and what our goals might be.
Right. And having that, I said a couple of minutes ago about all the sugar really affecting mental clarity. And so when you have all of the other things going on in your body from eating real food and getting all the nutrients that you need, it allows you to stay in a better mood, and you don't get as overwhelmed by things. Issues don't overwhelm you and make you feel like, oh my God, how can I deal with this? Right. Because you're feeling better. You're not dealing with physical issues around pain or exhaustion or fatigue. And you start to be more pleasant and enjoying people's company, and they start enjoying your company more. And it helps you to also expand your social circle, which again goes back to your most precious asset is being your health, both your mental health and your physical wellness.
Right. And feeling upbeat on a consistent basis will also open up for you a whole new world of possibilities. So if you're ill or you're stressed, it can sometimes be nearly impossible to focus on the bright side and look to the future with hope and excitement. And when you spend much of your time being happy, you'll notice that there are more things to be positive about. It might seem like your luck has changed, and it comes back to what you put out into the universe. If you put out some really good energy, you will get some good energy coming back in return. It all works together.
Mm-hmm. And, it's all of those things where our life is made up of so many components. And without our health, we keep coming back to without our health, it really affects all of those components.
Right, because illness and poor health can not only be detrimental for the body, but think about the cost of medical care when you're in poor health, right?
Like,
not only for you individually, but also for your employers if you are working in an environment that pays for your health care, whether it's frequent visits to the doctor or diagnostic testing, prescription medications. Those costs can really add up fast and can be a major strain on your finances if you need to cover those costs often, even with insurance that you have. So there are some serious health situations that require some home modifications and therapies, and all of that is paid out of pocket. And that can be another source of worry that adds to even more stress in your life. It's this vicious cycle that just goes around and around and around.
Right. It's sort of like the snowball that just keeps growing in the negative way. But if you're healthy, you are able to not have to deal with those things, and you don't have to worry about budgeting extra money for your health and treatments. But the best thing is good health leads to longevity, and you get to have a better quality of life as well as living longer. And we always feel like, oh, well, the quality of life is all the things that I can pack into it. And I can pack a whole lot more things into it if I'm healthy than if I'm not healthy. And there's never a bad time to start taking care of yourself. So maybe you're already in the midst of some of those health problems, but starting now to address them and get yourself healthy can still add on time to have with your family, with the people that mean the most to you. And that's important. Part of my work has been in hospice. And that's the one thing that people are always regretful of is, oh, I wish I had more time with my family.
So a healthy lifestyle really can benefit you in so many ways. You'll feel happier, less stressed, and ready to take on all of life's challenges and adventures. So don't miss out on the exciting opportunities that come your way because of poor health. Get out there, take charge of your life, and embrace it fully. So, Tammy, this was a great conversation. We're going to continue with this. Our show, Just for the Health of It, is a weekly show dedicated to bringing you information about healthy habits and behaviors. And we look forward to having you join us on Thursday evenings on Instagram Live in a chat at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at CoachMyWellness_CMW. You can also reach out to us anytime on CoachMyWellness.com. And we look forward to our next talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Joanne Orshan.
And I'm Tammy St. Clair, and this is Just for the Health of It.